Hi, this is Daisy Glassburn, Chair of the Board of Real Estate Appraisers. Today is June 3rd. It is 10:01 a.m. This is a public meeting of the Board of Real Estate Appraisers, and we will now call this meeting to order and begin by having the Division Director perform a roll call.
Darius Wise.
Here.
Bessie Chachas.
Here.
Brett Goff.
Here.
Clint Taylor.
Here.
Daisy Glassburn.
Here.
Valerie Bartel. Here. Rob Stylen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 5th, 2026?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thanks, Darius.
Thanks, Darius.
You
I have a
bet.
motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from March 5th, 2026. There's been a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on it? Okay, there has been a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the March 5th, 2026 Board of Real Estate Appraisers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed say no. Okay, the motion passes. On to policy matters. Marcia, we don't have anything, right?
So just if you would like something placed on your meeting agenda for the next meeting, which is in September. Anything you'd like to discuss?
I don't have anything.
I don't.
Well, you're not.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, we will move on to the citizen participation period. Any person may bring their concerns about matters not on the agenda before the board. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to 2 minutes unless allowed additional time by the board. Is there anyone who signed up?
If anyone from the public would like to address the board, please just raise your hand and we can identify you. And similarly, for anyone that is attending via the webinar, if you have any comments that you'd like to address with the board, I'd ask that you please select the raise hand icon at the lower part of your Zoom platform screen and we can identify you. We can just give that a moment, board members, to see if anyone online has anything that they'd like to address with you. However, I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay, we will move on to complaint matters.
So board members, complaint number A is case number 2025-2328. This is an investigation conducted by Rob Walker. The complainant allegations included potential issues with permitting, home inspection issues, and inappropriate comparable sales selection. While overall there was not much merit to these allegations, when reviewing the report and work file, there appear to have been numerous potential use path violations of the scope of work rule, record keeping rule, and standards rules 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. The respondent failed to adequately research and analyze the current market conditions and the neighborhood's comparable properties. There was a lack of commentary as to the specific criteria used to determine a comparable property and in the selection of comparable sales. There appeared to be insufficient amount of analysis in the sales comparison approach overall, with the exception of some documented peered sales support for some adjustments. However, there was no documented analysis for the lack of potential adjustment, particularly date of sale, time, and site adjustments. Additionally, there were several errors and a few contradictory statements throughout the report. Possible violations are 12-10-6131B, violation of Part 7 or a board rule. 12-10-6131G failed to comply with use path. Board Rule 12.12, which is not having the word copy displayed on the license. Scope of work rule, record keeping rule, and standards rules 1 and 2. The staff recommendation is for a stipulation for diversion, a $250 fine, and a class in selecting and supporting market adjustments. And Rob Walker is here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
Could we have some discussion on that?
Yeah, and in order to do that, I need to have a motion so that we can have it on the table. So, if someone wants to make a motion, so that we can discuss it.
I will make a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, Valerie Bartel.
Thanks, Valerie. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Brent. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Go first.
So trying to think how I want to start my question, or if it's more of a statement and to get your response. In reading the report, I just had concerns as he states he's using ANSI measurements, but 20% of the attic in the GLA was obviously not up to those standards. So the explanation of using a shoulder to measure, where, you know, years ago that might have been something that's obviously not something now. And so the credibility of the report, I feel like, is in question. During your interview process, when these items were brought up, the reaction from the appraiser was what? If you could talk to that, maybe, please.
I think it was the kind of general reaction, you know, this is the way, you know, we've been doing it. I mean, I think it was more kind of a nonchalant reaction than, you know, it's kind of typical. We see kind of this fairly frequently. It's just, you know, kind of pointing out that I think it was in there a couple of times, and it was obvious from the photos as well as potentially from the assessor records that the square footage was just not adding up. I think it was enough of a differentiation that's why it was brought up.
Right. And then in addition to that, so we're talking measurements and then we're talking about comp selection. And if you're including those in those measurements, then your comp selection is kind of all over the place, which we kind of saw through that report from utilizing condos, multifamilies, townhomes, so on and so forth. So the value conclusion at the end, I feel, has some real credibility challenges.
Yeah, I think that probably the criteria for a comparable property was lacking significantly. You know, if you just even would put it to, you know, single family homes, I think that would probably make some significant differences.
Great.
I have a question. If I could, Mr. Walker, on the comps that were selected, my colleague mentioned the attic. Did you visit with him about all the downward adjustments pointing one way on all the comps? And also, did you ask him about the $5,000 garage adjustment for a two-car garage versus no garage and no bracketing? Did you visit with him about any of that?
I think we did. In generally, a lot of them is we get kind of the generic answer of, you know, a generic paired sales answer or generic market reaction answer. You know, kind of throughout the report, you know, throughout the interview, you know, because we generally start at the top of the feature line and go down by at that point, you know, after you've heard the generic paired sales and, you know, market reaction without any particular support, we don't really kind of delve much deeper at that point because it's you know, we've heard the same answer on seven different features.
Yeah, thank you.
Rob, was he also doing a cost proxy for adjustments as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Was he doing a cost proxy for adjustments? I believe I remember, him stating something along the lines of doing a third of the sale price for GLA adjustments.
Yeah, I'll have to double check that, but that does sound fairly familiar. This was actually done quite a while ago. So I don't, we kind of hear that a lot, you know, and that's like, you know, my mentor, my trainer, you know, told me this process. So we do kind of hear that on a fairly frequent basis.
Yeah, I hear it more than it should be used, and, I think, you know, I think it's important to have that, that discussion. And, I think, you know, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion. And, I think it's important to have that discussion it's concerning because it is promoted, in some of the trade organizations, but, and it's not market derived. So, just wanted to clarify that.
I have another comment or question. I mean, can an appraiser rely on software weighting without being really able to explain how the weights are determined? Because he talks about his reliability on the software to provide him the answers on how he's weighting everything. So I found that to be interesting, because then when Rob, you questioned it, he kind of was fumbling through it, and he wasn't really able to kind of explain.
We find that frequently. Generally, what we do is ask kind of more of like the source of the data, what the particular data is, because we sometimes will hear the data, is that comparable property data? Is that, we will hear a lot of it, that's from the zip code. So that's kind of more of the questions that we get to. A lot of them can't, tell how the weighting was done. It was just, through the process and the software more than that. Yeah, and we also hear a lot of that through, the various softwares that will do, multiple analyses, and it's, how do you determine which one to do? And it's like, it's kind of what the software, it's, we hear frequently here, it's a combination of, various analyses that is done through the appraisal software, and then fine-tuned with, a sensitivity analysis is the kind of thing we hear. A lot of times we're just happy to see that there was actually some analysis in the work file. So,
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't think that we want them to blindly rely on technology.
Correct. Yeah, that's kind of where, my thoughts were as well.
mhm.
Can you repeat what the staff recommendation is?
It was for a stipulation for diversion, a $250 fine, and a class in selecting and supporting market adjustments. He's had multiple interactions with the board in the past, but it does appear that he has been improving over the years.
Okay.
So, I'd like to talk about that if I could. So 4 violations in the past 10 years, and a $250 fine might not be instructive enough. I don't think that's enough. If you've been in trouble, I get the improving, but, that's 4 of them since 2016. Well, it doesn't seem like that would change his behavior at all. I think that's the purpose of a fine, is to change behavior and instruct people. So I'd say at least 500 to 1,000. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that.
I second that. And I feel like you said, given his prior history, education, he's already gone through. If that education has, did indeed stick, then some of these items that we're seeing should not occur. Whether he needs more ANSI training, that's more, new, I guess you could say. That would mitigate the whole using your shoulder to measure a 5-foot ceiling, if you will. Work file documentation, again, I think would be something. Sales comp support, another thing. So I completely agree with you in that.
Can I ask a question? Why was, for Mr. Walker, why was the recommendation for a $250 fine?
So that was me.
That was yours.
I may have been very generous one morning when I read this and put this
Okay.
together. So
Well,
you obviously can deviate from that recommendation.
okay, I mean, I think that the education is more important than the fine, and so, with maybe adding in ANSI or something like that, an ANSI class, I think that would be more important than changing the fine, but that would be my thoughts on it.
Yeah, if I could chime in, guys, I think you're right. The education is important. I think it's equally important. I do think the fine, though, it hits where it hurts. I think it is going to send another signal, and increasing that fine, at least doubling that fine, based on his prior history. I would agree with both my colleagues' recommendation.
So the additional ANSI class and
And the fine, additional fine. Yep.
does somebody want to make a motion to amend the staff recommendation then?
I'll make the motion. So this is Board Member Goff. I'll make the motion that we amend the staff recommendation with a fine of $500 and coursework in ANSI measurement standards.
What if his shoulder's 5 foot? Mine's 5'1". Appraisers do guess when you can't get to the corner of those attics and stuff. It's, I know your mentors train you, hey, it's just your shoulder, but if it's a legitimate measurement, I don't have a problem with somebody doing that. I know where mine are. I know where my hand spread is when I can get a measurement.
So are you saying not the class?
I don't think the ANSI class would matter at all. I don't think it would do justice. I agree with the fine and maybe other coursework, but the measuring is, you either know how to measure it or you don't. I mean, the ANSI is not,
Right.
It's not tough.
So
Just my opinion, because he could justify, hey, this is 5 foot, so it's my shoulder. Now, if he said,
What would be your education recommendation?
coursework and then justify, supporting your adjustments again.
That one class, is that what you're?
The one they had, and then the other one, I would make him redo the supporting your adjustments and market analysis. I thought there was another market analysis class that I wrote down, and I don't know where I wrote
So
it.
there's the sales comparison approach, because usually depending on what the issues are, we'll look at qualifying education to have them repeat. So, but you can also do continuing ed classes. So if you want to give me a topic, I will find it. But we did the selecting and supporting market adjustments.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that was the only one recommended, and it's a 3-hour class. I'm also trying to diversify the schools that we send them to, because I'm starting to wonder at this point, like, we have regularly had them do courses from one education provider, and is that maybe a shortcoming as well? Like, are they not getting everything out of those classes that they should have?
I think that's great.
So I'd like to pose the question on this attic, the 5 foot, whatever shoulder to the wall. It's been a long time since I've actually done a URAR. And do attics even count on the above grade gross living area? I mean, I could go off on a tangent and say what we do in our assessor office, but we're the weird ones. And so it's been 30 years since I did a URAR for a bank, and I used to look for building permits on attics to make sure that they weren't just magically done by the homeowner without a permit. So did we even talk about that during the investigation? Mr. Walker?
Generally, I think it's in that area, it's commonly accepted that this is, gross living space if it does meet the basic. And I'm looking at the ANSI standards, and the ANSI standards say you can count this as gross living area if it meets the certain height issues. So basically, we defer to the ANSI standards as far as management, and as long as it's not below grade at all, we're going to consider it above grade living area if the height requirements are met.
Okay, thank you.
How does the division typically find the education, I guess?
So the education providers on the appraisal side are kind of limited. because I think you've lost some over the years. So typically, when I'm reading the reports and I'm looking at what the deficiencies are, I also go back and see what he's previously taken. He's taken a lot of coursework in the past. So I don't necessarily think that it's beneficial to have them take the exact same class over and over again. So I usually try to find subject matters then from a different provider. But that's also, depending on the issues, that's also when we might look for alternatives aside from education, like supervision or product review or whatever. I didn't necessarily think that he needed that this go around, but it's also gonna depend on what the topic of the education is. Because if you have something really specific, there may only be one education provider that's offering it.
Is the Appraisal Institute, one of our options?
So I will look to see if they've got classes available. We just have to walk a really careful line with that because we can't mandate that somebody take education through a trade association. Now, if they want to, and it meets the criteria, that's fine.
So it sounds like the board, we're kind of on a, not necessarily an impasse, but we're kind of wait and see what we can find, and then, or should we
Well, if you give me an
vote
idea,
on something?
if you give me an idea of what you think that he needs classwork in, I will find that topic area and then
Like-
find him the education.
Analysis and reporting.
Okay, and so there's the whole residential, so I can find a class in that, that's not a problem.
So in place of Nancy,
Oftentimes in the settlement agreement that I'll offer them, it will list the subject matter, not necessarily the provider. So we give them the opportunity to find a course on their own as well, but we have the backup, we know it's at least offered somewhere. So we don't necessarily.
We're not making up magic topics that they can't find in the classes.
Right.
that's good.
And every once in a while, we come across something that we have asked for and they simply can't find it. And so we kind of just reevaluate and make sure that we're finding something that's gonna help address the issues. So every once in a while, there's a little variation from what you might ask for.
Gotcha.
Board members, just to kind of bring this circle of like where you are procedurally. So you had a motion and a second to accept the staff recommendation. And then board member Goff made a motion to amend that to add the one additional course and to double the fine from the 250 that was originally recommended to 500. That amendment wasn't seconded,
Yeah.
so it hasn't moved anywhere. So kind of procedurally where you still are is deciding what to do on the original motion, which was the $250 fine. And the recommended course were in the staff report.
And so we need to have a motion to amend the staff recommendation.
If you want if the
We can
decision
discuss
is
that.
to do something different, then you'll need motion to amend a second and vote on that. But that's, if you were to vote now, you would be voting on that
Right.
motion.
Right, okay. Can I get a motion then to amend the staff recommendation?
And this is amending it from the 500 fine and ANSI coursework in addition to the 3-hour course of selecting and supporting market adjustments, correct?
So it would be from 250 to 500 and then adding the ANSI.
Right.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
okay, I have a motion and a second.
Except that he was the motion and then he's the.
It's all about himself.
I'll second the motion to amend. And all
Okay,
that stuff.
so
Is that?
so it's board member Goff's proposed amendment.
Still stands.
And then board member Taylor, you just seconded that because he can't second his own
Oh,
motion.
wait, right, so wait.
So I'm just trying to figure out, so it's clear to everybody what's on the table.
So Brett made the motion to amend the staff recommendation.
Right,
And you're seconding it, correct? For the 2 to 500 and the additional ANSI class?
Or do you want to do?
Or does somebody?
Or does the board want
anybody
to do
else-
something different?
right, that's where,
It's
that's,
your, it's ultimately
that-
your
right,
decision,
right. I understand what Rob said about, we're not sure if the ANSI course will do any help towards the gentleman. because of the 5 foot, he may be 5, you're 5, whatever. Do we as a group agree with Rob's assessment and comment that maybe the ANSI course will not be something appropriate? Do we agree on that?
I mean, I think it should be one or the other, a fine or the ANSI class, and maybe not both. We don't need to pile up things. So I guess if I'm reading, the table right, somebody needs to make a recommendation to increase the fine only. Then
I think
Or do we have
we're
to
still
vote- or do we have
undecided
to
about the
vote on
ANSI class.
I think we're still a little undecided on
Yeah.
the ANSI class, because I can see. I feel like when reading the report, going through the documentation, listening to the interview, that there were still issues around ANSI and his ability to understand ANSI in the way that he was kind of going back and forth when Rob was asking his questions. So in my opinion, I feel that maybe the ANSI class couldn't hurt, since he wasn't able to clearly articulate his understanding of the measurements, his understanding of the reasoning behind his adjustments and why he chose to include the attic and surrounding all that. Now, granted, that could have been nerves, I understand, but I think that a refresher could be good on that side. It can't hurt. And then I believe that doubling up the fine to the 500 is also appropriate due to his past history. So kind of as Darius was stating earlier, that, doubling it up means that we're serious about this, that he needs to take this serious and, make these corrections in his reports going forward. I feel that the ANSI course could help that and the fine could help that. That is my take. That is my recommendation.
so that's what you seconded,
But
right?
that's what I'm seconding.
Okay.
So you can have some discussion or recall the vote if the board feels it's ready to make a decision on the amended. motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to amend the staff recommendation. Is there any further discussion on it?
Mine was the reporting, right? I'm not sure he doesn't know how to measure them, and I think he doesn't know how to report it. So one of the classes is either reporting and supporting, or ANSI is gonna help him clarify, so.
Will the divisions class though that was recommended by the staff encompass that?
The ANSI measurement standards?
No. The reporting and analysis?
Reporting.
No, I would probably recommend like a residential report writing class.
Okay, well then we're back at square one with motions, correct?
So
We need
the
to make
class
it-
suggested by the state was selecting and supporting adjustments.
That's right.
I think either a reporting or an ANSI, or maybe both. I'm not so worried about the fine, it's more, you know what you're doing.
Right.
So I'm
So maybe
okay,
make it-
I'm okay with either or both. In addition to the
I think both is a good
I
idea.
think I would agree with that. Do you want to make a motion?
To amend the amended. The original.
Which was that?
Easier. What would be easier is if you want to withdraw the amendment and then have a new amendment,
Okay,
as opposed to.
so should I do that? Brett, oh no, you would do that.
Help me, please, if I messed this up.
And I'm not, I don't think anybody's we're just trying to make it clear what happened, so if you wanna just withdraw the motion.
So I'll withdraw the motion.
And then if you wanna have a new amendment, that the classes, then somebody needs to make that.
So I make a motion to double the fine, add an additional ANSI class and reporting class
Correct.
to
There we
the
go.
selecting and supporting market adjustment class. So 3 classes total with a double of the fine.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion before we take a vote? Okay, I have a
don't-
motion.
No, you have a motion and a second. There's no more discussion.
Okay.
You got to do that, guys. Good job.
I have a motion and a second to amend the staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And board members, for Doreen's benefit, since she is not here and it's kind of hard to discern who's making what motion, can you just say your name when you make a motion so that she can hear that?
Does she have this round
We've
straight?
got it covered for this.
Okay.
We don't need to relive this case. So complaint matter B is case number 2025-2373. Rob Walker was the investigator on this. The complainant alleged the respondent accepted an assignment to perform appraisals on 2 properties to determine their market value for the purpose of a divorce mediation. The respondent was paid $1,300 for the assignment on February 21st, 2025. The respondent inspected both properties, accompanied by his elderly father. On March 11th, 2025, the complainant received the appraisal report for only one of the properties. And as of March 5th, 2026, she still had not had the other appraisal report delivered on the remaining property. The complainant has repeatedly attempted to contact the respondent via telephone, text message, and email over the following months without any response. In addition to failing to provide the appraisal report on the second property, there appeared to be merit in the allegations that the other appraisal report had numerous errors and inaccuracies. The respondent also failed to provide a written response to the allegations as required by Board Rule 13.4. He did finally respond to the investigator after he was sent a third notification, a final notice to comply. His email contained a few documents, but did not include a response to the complainant's allegations. The respondent has been sent 2 additional emails asking for his written response as well as a request for an interview, and there was no response to those. After reviewing the report in the work file, there appeared to have been numerous potential use type violations of the competency rule, ethics rule, scope of work rule, record keeping rule, and standards rules 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. The respondent failed to adequately research and analyze the neighborhood, the market conditions, as well as the comparable properties. There was a lack of commentary concerning the current market conditions and for the selection of the comparable sales. In the sales comparison approach, there appeared to be little analysis, no documented support for the adjustments. The respondent stated his basis for not developing either the cost or income approaches was from discussions with his clients. There were numerous factual errors and contradictory statements throughout the report, potentially from cloning their previous reports. Additionally, the license submitted in the report had expired months earlier, and he failed to provide a current proof of errors and omissions insurance. So the possible violations are 12-10-6131D, violation of Part 7 or a board rule. 12-10-6131G, failed to comply with UFAB. Board Rule 6.10, which is the errors and omissions insurance requirement. Board Rule 1212, which is his report contained an expired license. Board Rule 13.4, failing to answer the complaint allegations. Scope of work rule, record keeping rule, competency rule, ethics rule, and then violations of standards rules 1 and 2. With this one, we're recommending a stipulation for diversion, a $500 fine, and coursework and supporting adjustments, reliable record keeping, and the 15-hour use path course. And Rob is here to answer any questions that you have.
But first we need to make a motion.
Yes. Do I have a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
Yeah, this is board members Bartel. I will make a recommendation, or I make a motion to accept the staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Valerie. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Darius Wise. I'll second.
I'd like some discussion on
Thanks,
this.
Darius. A motion and a second, we can discuss.
Okay.
I have a question real quick. Was he in fact licensed, active? Was that, I know it wasn't included in the report. Or was his
I
active?
I believe he did have an active license. I just think he didn't update his report.
As if I remember correctly, he put his broker's license.
I know
in
that.
there.
Yeah, he had an active broker's license in there, but not an active real estate or appraisal license. It appears that he concentrating more on real estate than appraising at the time of the complaint.
But his appraisal license was active. He just failed to put it in the report. Okay. I have another question. I don't know, so he accepted payment for the second report, but never provided a second report?
That is correct. That's my understanding, yes.
Did he ever refund the client?
No, not to my knowledge.
And so that was what, $650?
Yes.
Yes, 1,300, okay. So I guess his fine is less than what he actually took from a consumer. So I guess that would be one concern that I would have.
What is our capacity in terms of the fine on this?
So it's $1,000
$1,000.
for violation first go around. If I remember correctly, Carrie. I think so.
He hasn't had any priors.
No,
Okay,
Does that help the consumer though?
No.
We take the money?
no,
Take the money and run, right?
Can we? You can't.
you can't order restitution, but it can be part of an agreement that Penny negotiates if you want us to try that.
What would that look like?
So- If he signs a stipulated agreement with us, he can agree to pay the consumer $650 for the report that he didn't finish. But if he doesn't sign a stipulation, if it goes to hearing, we're not gonna be able to seek that. So you may wanna, sometimes, and Penny can speak to this, there may be an alternative way to kind of motivate somebody to take the road that makes the consumer whole.
Yeah, and sometimes I think when the fine is greater than what the restitution would be, that discussion is, do you have any new information for me? Have you made the consumer whole? And with that new information and guidance from you, then I have the ability to lower a fine. So there's sort of ways to motivate somebody to do the right thing, and then if they choose not to, then we would pursue the higher fine, if that's the way you wanted to go.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea. I mean, this was a very unfortunate circumstance. They're going through a divorce. These are really important things that are going on in their lives. And he obviously had something personal go on in his life. We all get that. And can show some empathy towards that, but the lack of communication, leaving them hanging, they needed 2 reports. They only got 1. The one they received had some credibility issues, lack of explanation, adjustments. It wasn't a good report either. So, I mean, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more done to this gentleman to get him to understand the seriousness of what he caused in this a little bit. So
Rob, this is Rob. He still hasn't responded to emails or written response or anything. You just
No.
stopped for the initial.
Yeah, no, after my last 2 attempts requesting an interview and a written response, yeah, I stopped requesting and nor has he reached out to me or the complaint as far as I'm aware of.
So then if you were to arrange something, an appointment with him he may not even show up.
Yeah, oftentimes when somebody doesn't respond to the investigators, then they don't necessarily respond to me either, and then it'll be referred to Karen's office to litigate it. But it'll still go through that process. I will reach out and make attempts to resolve the issue, but it's true, he may not respond to me as well.
he currently doesn't have air emissions, as we know. His license is expired, so maybe he's not interested in being an appraiser at this current moment.
So let me double check the status of his license, because I don't necessarily think that he's expired right now.
It's just.
It's currently active through December 31st of this year. Unless he activated it himself.
How many violations were there total?
And to confirm, it's up to $1,000 per violation. What I would say is because the board doesn't have the authority to order restitution, I would caution against putting something in your disciplinary recommendation that you can't order, but you can delegate Penny through ESP, give her a little bit of negotiating authority.
So if the board increases the fine, he can have a chance to respond and say, hey, I made it whole or whatever, and then it can be reconsidered or.
Typically, the process in these disciplinary matters is the board or a commission votes on the discipline, and then it goes to Penny's office through ESP. And Penny has attempts to, her office attempts to have input with the respondent to see if they'll accept the discipline. Sometimes they come back with a counter offer. And depending on what the counter offer is, it may be within Penny's delegated authority, it may not be. When it exceeds Penny's delegated authority, then we bring it back to the board for you to consider whether to accept or not. That's kind of the standard procedure, so.
There's no way to make her whole without the appraiser doing it himself. The board has
The
no
board,
jurisdiction.
yeah, the board can't order the appraiser to make the consumer whole.
Okay,
The baseline then for the fine that you could potentially adjust, would we make that fine here or have it go, just refer it to?
I would refer it to, I would follow your standard process.
Yeah.
So order the fine that you think is appropriate, getting the restitution out of your mind, and if that can come to play in my discussions, if he responds to me, you can give me that delegated authority to adjust the fine accordingly if he were to make the consumer whole.
And we can delegate that within this proceeding, not after you've talked to him, right?
You can do it either way. I can bring it back to you at your next
I'm
meeting.
just trying to condense the steps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and
Could-
Marcia may.
real-
help
Really,
too, but
really quick, guys. So, sorry to interrupt. Could we, in the motion, and maybe Daisy, this is where you were going, could we adjust the motion to include that?
we don't want to have the motion include restitution, given that it's probably most likely he's not going to respond to me, given that he hasn't responded to the investigator. However, he may respond to Karen's office. So it's best to have the motion simply be what it is you're seeking, if we were to take it all the way to hearing, what we can do statutorily.
so if we make it obvious and raise our fine $650 more, or is it 30 increments? Doesn't
Your fining authority is up to the $1,000 per violation.
$1,000.
Technically have 24 violations, but we don't ever count the statute that says violation of a rule as part of our tally. So you would be looking at 23 separate finable violations. Just based
So
on
max of
all of the
23
different
grand.
use PAP standards. Yeah.
And that's
Potentially, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I might add another one that you may have missed, Mr. Walker. I want to ask you a question though. Did you interview the complainant?
I did.
And did you discuss her allegation that the licensee asked her out on a date repeatedly?
That was actually the elderly father.
Oh, the father asked her out.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, that might be a
I was getting a
violation.
little gossipy for the report, so I didn't I didn't include that.
We were glad to hear that it was the dad.
Okay,
Yes.
I was going to say, preamble of use map is probably that issue here, independent, impartial, and objective, so thank you.
I have a couple.
I don't, if I could finish, there are a lot of errors in this report. It's one after another, and it's big. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars in cloning problems and, just like $800,000 value in the sales comparison and 660 in the narrative. He missed the square footage by 3,000 square feet. And now we hear that he doesn't want to finish an appraisal that he promised to do. So I think we have a public trust issue here, and we can instruct him with a letter of censure. I know we can't force the, contract and forced restitution, but we can, strongly urge him to finish the appraisal process when he agrees to do so. I think a letter might be appropriate.
I think there's a lot of things that we are not even considering and looking at here. If you look at his bio, he has more designations than I could ever imagine in my life. He says that he's a broker and appraiser educator. He's been a realtor for 8 years. He also has earned his designation as real estate collaborative specialist in divorce. He also has a website for divorcethishouse.com. He's also part of the law professionals for Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals. He has his probate real estate specialist. He also teaches at Emily Griffith pre-licensing broker and license appraiser programs. When supposedly you are a, what do you people call realtor, you supposedly take an ethics class. I don't know if I believe any of that because that's something mommy and daddy teaches you. You don't take a class and become all of a sudden ethical. Money doesn't buy you ethics, but in this case, this man is totally proven that he's bought ethics and he shows it by, I mean, the list goes on of everything he's done. He's a contract investigator with the state of Colorado.
Not currently,
Thank God.
not currently,
Previous. He's education task force with Dora.
that's in the past as well.
So these need to be, when I look up his website, it just makes him look like the world's peachiest keen person underneath the sun. And I can see as the general public myself, I would take this as I'm gonna use him hands down.
Does the division have jurisdiction to, remove the ability for him to be teaching and doing things like that, or? Is there?
So I guess in the course review process, depending on, based on his license, I mean, if he is teaching courses that are within, you know, the boundaries of his licenses, and it appears that he is knowledgeable, I don't know what grounds we would have to deny him CE credit. And like people putting up past experiences on the website to kind of bolster their resume, I don't think is something that we can force them to remove as well.
Right.
Well, then he also says he's a board member of the Northern Colorado Association of Appraisers.
So that's a trade association.
It's just.
I understand that, but do you see how the general public can construe this very
Absolutely,
easily?
yeah, absolutely.
That's the problem.
And so his marketing,
It's out there.
which shows that he does not even want to comply with anything that we as board members want to make sure that he complies with. He's already gone against the general public by not providing information. He's basically humiliated us in a way with all the things that he's got listed on his website, saying that he's just this incredible human being, considering that he says he's part of Colorado law and also Board of Appraisers.
Marcia, if someone has formal discipline and they want to create a course and get that approved through the state, does that come into play as whether it's approved or not?
Traditionally, it's not something that is reviewed, although the board certainly could direct the education department to look into that as part of the consideration. But again, to Director Waters' point, is that if they do have those qualifications, particularly if they have courses that are approved through the AQB, then we will certainly be able to look into that. And perhaps another thing that we can do is identify some of the existing courses and conduct audits on those courses to ensure that the material is accurate, up to date, current, things of that sort, as well. We'd be happy to do that.
And can we include that in a recommendation?
That you want us to audit his classes?
What about more of a public
I'm
censure?
trying to,
Then it's on his record and.
So, yeah,
and then it would be a separate thing that the education department, when, if that comes in, it's flagged or. Or,
So, well, but, okay, so if you publicly censure him,
uh-huh,
it still doesn't mean that he's not qualified to
Right.
teach a class. And on the education side, I'm not aware of how often he's teaching classes,
Yeah.
contrary to what his resume may say. But if we were getting complaints about like these classes are not covering the subject material, they're not meeting the standards for continuing education, we would do an audit and then look at taking away course approvals. But so I will tell you, part of my reasoning behind the reduced or the lower level discipline was he's been licensed as an appraiser for 17 years and has not had a misstep until this one. And that is, I mean, that will open the door if he wants to talk to Penny. Maybe there is something going on that has caused after 17 years, like, why did he do such a poor job at this one? He can have that conversation with either Penny or Karen, but you are more than welcome to ratchet it up to a final agency order, public censure, increase the fine, whatever you want to do.
what do the board members feel about that?
I just wanted to make the consumer whole.
Yeah, and, I don't know that we can,
What he says online about himself is what he says.
yeah.
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 That's why I choose him.
I guess.
Yeah,
so,
I don't
like-
think, it
Yeah.
doesn't, really quickly, guys, it doesn't seem like we have control over what he says about himself online. That's out of our purview. I agree with you. It's unfortunate. I think making the consumer whole also seems like it's outside of our jurisdiction. It seems like the maximum fine is where we can, that's what we can enforce. And so what else? I'm not sure what else we can do at this point.
Let's talk about the fine then, just considering all of that, what are everyone's thoughts around that? Because that would be a pretty hefty.
$23,000.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought increasing it just to make him have contact
To
with
what?
somebody.
It's like I was thinking like 1,000, and then he can have the choice. He can pay $1,000 to Dora, or he can just make this
He'd
consumer
have to
whole.
make the choice.
But if he has to make the choice, then maybe it's a more obvious choice, and it kind of leads him to making the consumer whole. The other stuff, people, it's marketing. People are gonna, put down their past experience to boost themselves up. And it doesn't sound like he was, being dishonest about it. It's just, he does look really good on his website. Maybe that's why you would want some kind of letter so that somebody looked up his license. There might be something on there.
What do others think about the?
I don't feel that the $1,000 is anything. You just pay $1,000, go away, he's already chosen not to respond, and communicate. He didn't do an interview. To wake him up, in my personal opinion, I think that needs to be a heavier fine, maybe 5,000. I mean, we have up to 23. We need to let him know that we're serious, and what he did was a serious thing as well. These poor people, got one report that's arguably not usable. A second report still needs to be out there. Who knows where they are in their divorce, if they're still waiting for this, if they've already got another one. I mean, there's so many questions that we have that we don't have answers to, because the gentleman is obviously going through something. However, at the end of the day, emotion aside, business is business. He's not providing a service to the public that was asked of him. That is putting us here to discuss this. And I think $1,000, if it's just $1,000 with a resume like that, I'll pay it right now. Where do I send the check? So I think that fee needs to be, I don't know, I'm just saying maybe 5,000 at minimum.
Clint, you said up to 23. What's our maximum? What's the maximum penalty we can enforce?
$1,000 per violation.
Per violation. Okay. Wow.
And he has 23.
Yeah, I tend to side with Clint on this. I mean, I think it does need to be, I said maximum, assuming that you're right, it's per violation. Is it 5? I mean, where do we, what feels like it hits his, he's got an extensive resume. What feels like it hits his pocket in a way that he feels it hurts.
Well, he needs to have empathy for what he has done. Now, granted, he obviously was going through something, right? But these two people that engaged him to complete these divorce appraisals have the fee of the appraisal. They have their divorce fees and whatever emotional turmoil that they're going through as a family. I can't imagine. So again,
We just can't
$1,000.
control him having empathy. I think
Agreed.
what we can do, that fee can be steep enough for him to feel it. And I think you're right. It's got to be at minimum a few $1,000s, 5.
Yeah.
I have a question for our attorney. If we did levy a higher fine, could we defer that fine if he makes the complainant whole by refunding an appraisal fee in a 30-day period?
To answer a question with a question, but I will start by asking, does the board want to go into executive session to receive legal advice on these issues?
I think that might be a good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for a break anyway. That'd be fine.
Yeah, we need to have.
That's a process we have to follow. It's always a process.
So do I have to withdraw my motion before we go into executive session? Or do we just go into, do we make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Well,
Okay.
Daisy has that.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Thing. This is Daisy Glassburn. It is June 3rd, 2026, and the time is now 10:58. This is a meeting of the Colorado Board of Real Estate Appraisers. I move that the board enter into executive session pursuant to section 246402, 3A2 of the Colorado Revised Statutes to receive legal advice on, let's see, this is complaint number 2025-2373, is that correct? Do I have a second motion to the motion?
This is Clint Taylor. I second that motion.
Okay. If we can have a vote, those in favor, say aye.
I
Believe there was 7, and we'll move into executive session.
So everybody, we're gonna have to ask you to leave the room so that they can talk to their attorney.
There's some food in the back on your way out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
y'all.
Yeah, right down here. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well done. That was good.
Oh, that's the first thing I always do.
Yeah.
Everyone's got this. Oh.
Can
Can I get everybody to mute their microphones, please?
Yeah. Hey, really quickly, do I need to go to the other invite, or are we good
Yeah.
here?
So if you can go into Google Meets, because
Yep, I got you.
David's gonna shut you down on this one. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're back whenever you like.
It's so expensive.
The time is 11:22 and the board is back in open session. Did anyone want to make a motion or do you want to discuss?
I believe we're.
Really,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, thank you. Did we land on a fine amount?
I think Clint mentioned 5,000, but there wasn't a motion.
Yeah, I just heard 10 thrown around. I'm comfortable with 5 as well.
I would be comfortable with 5. I think that sends a pretty strong message.
I think so too.
The education that was included with this.
That was, let's see, we said supporting adjustments and reliable record keeping. 15-hour use app, right?
And
And the stipulations for diversion.
what about public center?
You wouldn't do that with a stipulation for diversion. It would have to be a final agency order.
So what are
Okay.
your thoughts on that then?
I think a final agency order, so it would be public. The public has a right to see this one.
I would agree.
Love that. Totally agree.
Motion then?
Do you need a distinction between like the final agency order and the public
So the
censure?
public censure is not automatic, so if you're gonna make a motion because you want it to be very apparent to the public, you're gonna need to have a motion that says a final agency order with public censure, and then whatever you're gonna do with the fine and education.
So this is board member Goff. I'll make a motion for, ordered education of a 15-hour use PAP class, a $5,000 fine. A letter of censure and a final agency order,
Public center?
Yeah.
public censure.
I second that motion. This is Darius Wise.
For clarity, I think you only mentioned one of the classes.
Yeah.
Do you want all 3 that were recommended?
Supporting adjustments and reliable record keeping and the 15-hour use PAP. I can make that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend the staff's recommendation to a $5,000 fine. Final agency order with public censure and the classes of supporting adjustments, reliable record keeping, and the 15-hour use PAP. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Board member Darius Wise seconds.
Thanks, Darius. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, I have a motion and a second, and we will now take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No,
No. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was not, okay. The motion passes.
Okay, so complaint. Matter C is case number 2026-300. Rob Walker is the investigator on this one. The complainant alleged the respondent inaccurately described the subject in the neighborhood, used inappropriate comparable sales, and failed to support adjustments. There were also a significant number of factual and spelling errors, which led to what appears to be a misleading report. The respondent has failed to respond to the complaint as required by Board Rule 13.4. He was sent 3 email notifications, the first on February 9th, 2026, and the last was a final notice to comply on March 16th, 2026. It was evident the respondent received all 3 notifications because the investigator was sent auto reply emails, which would be an acknowledgement of receipt. After reviewing the report in the work file, there appeared to have been numerous potential use PAP violations of the competency rule, the ethics rule, the scope of work rule, the record keeping rule, and standard rule 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. The respondent failed to adequately research and analyze the neighborhood, the market conditions, as well as the comparable properties. There was a lack of commentary concerning the current market conditions and for the selection of the comparable sales. In the sales comparison approach, there appeared to be little analysis and no documented support for adjustments. It appeared the cost approach was developed primarily because it was a client requirement and to support the sales comparison approach rather to be an independent approach to value. There were also numerous errors and contradictory statements throughout the report, which potentially may have been from a failure to properly edit a previous report. Possible violations include 12-10-6131B, violation of a Part 7 or a rule, 12-10-6131G, failed to comply with use PAP. Board Rule 1212, he didn't have a copy prominently displayed on his license. Board Rule 13.4, he failed to respond. Complaint allegations, the scope of work rule, the record keeping rule, the competency rule, the ethics rule, and standards rules 1 and 2. The recommendation was for a stipulation for diversion, a $500 fine, 15 hours of use PAP, the sales comparison approach, and also selecting and supporting market adjustments. And Rob is here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the staff's recommendation on this one?
This board member, Bartel, I would make a motion to accept.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This Rob Stilo, I second it.
Thanks, Rob. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions?
This is Board Member Goff. I have a question. Mr. Walker,
Mhm.
were you able to interview the licensee?
I got no response whatsoever.
Okay. I noticed he's also certified in Wyoming and Kentucky. And there's some Kentucky verbiage in his adjustment grid that's unique. It kind of, to me, is a breadcrumb of maybe going to his competency here. He said the verification source was the county clerk and the PVA, which is in Kentucky is the equivalent of the county assessor. You don't have PVAs here. So I kind of saw that as his verification source was something that's probably from Kentucky. I don't know. A PVA is a property valuation administrator. So also, the one comp number 4 was 190 miles from the subject. It's disturbing. I don't know if that disturbed you guys, but it's disturbing.
Yeah. Did he ever provide his work file?
He provided nothing. No response whatsoever.
I mean, he's already not explaining any search logic. Like Brett just said, 190 miles out. I mean, that's something. He said his support for his adjustments are lacking in his narrative. And this gentleman's not corresponding. I mean, is it arguable to say this report is misleading? Potentially. Anybody else feel on this?
Yeah, I would also kind of say that geographic competency would have to play a part as well, being, located in the Denver metro area and, appraising a property on the Kansas border.
Right.
And using a comp in Johnstown.
That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's still.
Marcia, I have a question. Does the coursework that we're recommending, does it have anything in regards to complex property valuation or rural properties or any education pieces out there like that?
No, but you can definitely add that.
Okay.
What are you thinking as far as that?
Well, just the fact that he is in Denver and he's taking comps. Yeah, I mean, just like Brett said, 190 miles out and without much articulation as to why. If you're going to take on a complex property and it's rural in nature, or if you're having to make sure search parameters, that means that you need to make sure that your narrative is supporting why you did that and explain it in depth, in my opinion. But without having a work file to understand why he did what he did, we're kind of left in the dark to only make assumptions. again, public trust issue in my personal opinion, with this type of situation. So, that's why I was asking Marcia about it. There's actual coursework that we could apply to, the recommendations for, focusing on such properties with the rural nature or having to make an appraiser search outside of the normal, 2 to 5 mile range and time adjustments, so on and so forth, and then have to support it with his narrative.
Right, isn't that included in the courses though? I mean, he couldn't accept it if he wasn't competent technically, but
Yeah,
without the work file, you'd never know.
exactly.
If
So that's
we
why.
were to suggest a class on
So we
rural.
can do, I can look for one that either addresses complex properties, because this was the barnuminium, so.
Barnuminium, right?
Or I can look for appraising rural properties.
In my opinion, I think those are kind of hand in hand, so I would say both.
Okay.
Because typically, if you're doing a barn dominium, it's typically rural. If he's got a license in Kentucky, he's probably done that a few times. So, this course could help him in Kentucky, it could help him here, or in Wyoming, it could help him here in Colorado.
I think that's a good idea.
So I think that's good. It was also right on I-70.
Okay.
You could hear the traffic and no mention of that, so. I don't know what rural I-70 near Kansas sounds like, but this is probably something you want to talk about in the report, so I think those courses would be good.
Okay. So do I need to make a motion for that? Do we feel the fine is appropriate?
What was the fine?
500.
500.
Yeah,
This is another one that's not contacted us.
He claimed to have a death in his family, although we weren't able to verify it. Yeah.
So then he did respond, he just,
Well, and
Kind of.
so Rob can speak to that, but he did at least,
acknowledged that.
Rob was aware that. he
Yeah,
was
I
sick.
think it was an auto email reply with that message of the sick family and things, but he never did actually respond other than the auto reply. So we know we got the email.
And this is his first, there's been no priors or anything like that,
Not
right?
with them.
Yeah, I think
No.
he's relatively new in the
The state.
in Colorado. He's only been licensed since 2022.
I think the fine is appropriate. That's my thoughts. Do you have anything?
I think fine's appropriate.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion then?
Just to basically accept, or no, we're
Well,
gonna, yeah.
Yeah, this is board member Clint Taylor. I make a motion to accept the $500 fine. The coursework of a 15-hour USPAP course, sales comparison approach, selecting and supporting market adjustments. And then I would like to add the 2 additional courses as it associates to appraising complex rural properties. And what was the other one? I'm so sorry, Marcia.
Actually, complex and rural.
Oh, complex and rural, sorry. Yeah, separate.
Okay, I have a motion to amend the staff's recommendation. Do I have a second?
This is board member Bartel, I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we can take a vote. I have a motion and a second, and we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion passes.
Okay, so complaint matter D is case number 2026-703. This is,
Marcia, just, I didn't hear from Darius.
So
on
Darius-
voting.
yeah,
Did you
Darius
drop off?
dropped off. He's got a lunch appointment, so
Okay.
he is gone.
We're still okay with the number.
Yes,
though.
you are
Okay.
good. Yeah. So case number 2026-703, that's item matter D. This is an investigation by Rob Walker. The complainant alleged the respondent showed a lack of ethics and professionalism for failing to accept a written disclosure of property defects presented by the seller. He was apparently upset by what he thought to have been an inadequate inspection, which did not report known hazards and adverse conditions. When reviewing the report and work file, there appeared to have been numerous potential USPAP violations of the scope of work rule, record keeping rule, and standards rules 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. In the sales comparison approach, there was a lack of adequate research and analysis of the area's current market conditions, as well as the comparable properties. It appeared the contract price was the primary criterion used to determine a comparable property. The respondent relied solely on sensitivity analysis to calculate the adjustment amounts, which appeared to have been calculated to narrow the adjusted sales price range rather than objectively compare the comparable sales to the subject. There was no documented support for any of the adjustments. The cost approach appeared to have been primarily developed to support the sales comparison approach rather than an independent approach to value. The respondent inferred it was developed to avoid a potential revision request by the lender. Overall, there was an inadequate level of research analysis and documented support. Possible violations include 12-10-613-1B, violation of Part 7 or a board rule. 12-10-613-1G, failed to comply with USPAP. Board Rule 12.12, which was not having the word copy displayed on the license. The scope of work rule, the record keeping rule, and standards rules 1 and 2. The recommendation is a stipulation for diversion, a $250 fine, and coursework in selecting and supporting adjustments, and the residential report writing and case studies class. And Rob is here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do you have a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
This is board member Bartel. I'll make a motion to accept the staff's recommendation.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
And board member Goff, I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this one? Good. Alrighty. Hearing no further discussion, I'll take a vote. All those in favor to accept the staff recommendation, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes. Go on to complaint matter E.
And that is case number 2026-163. This is another investigation by Rob Walker. This is an anonymous complaint that alleged the respondent had been accepting and completing assignments that were beyond his level of competency. The respondent is a licensed appraiser and apparently has been routinely completing appraisal reports for properties where his opinion of market value is above the $1 million threshold and could be considered complex. The complainant included 5 appraisal reports on 3 different properties with the complaint. 3 of the 5 reports had an opinion of value of more than $1 million. The subject of one of the other reports, same property but different effective dates, was purchased from Habitat for Humanity and had a deed restriction. A property with a deed restriction could potentially be considered a complex property. The respondent has requested this complaint be dismissed because he is currently in the process of completing the disciplinary action from a previous complaint, which is case number 2025-930, which had similar violations. On September 4th of 2025, the board agreed to impose a $2,000 fine, 45 hours of coursework, work product review, and a practice restriction to licensed appraiser limitations prior to upgrading his license. You also added public censure to that disciplinary action. He did eventually sign a stipulation with you all. In reviewing the reports submitted with this complaint, there appeared to have been similar potential USPAP violations as to the prior complaint matter. And the reports did all have effective dates prior to the initial complaint and the subsequent stipulation and final agency order. So with this group of complaints, the possible violations include 12- well, I would not say 12-10-710, or unlicensed activity. I would go with 12-10-613-1B, violation of Part 7 or rule. Failed to comply with USPAP, which is 12-10-613-1G, 12-10-613-1H, beyond level of competency. an ethics rule violation, a competency rule violation, scope of work rule violation, record keeping rule, and standards 1 and 2. We don't have a disciplinary recommendation with you because these reports, like I said a minute ago, were completed prior to his disciplinary case with you all. However, I think your goal with that disciplinary case was to make it very clear what the limitations were of the licensed appraiser, and that he needed to apply for a certified residential credential if he wanted to continue, which when Rob spoke to him, he indicated he was going to be submitting an application. He also spoke to me and indicated the same, but we have yet to receive an application for a certified res. So we're just bringing this to you to see how you want to deal with it.
And to confirm, so he's in the process of potentially submitting this, however, he's still practicing
I don't know.
his profession and I don't want to say ignoring, but because he's still handling what has already been given to him in the previous case, if you will, or complaint. But I guess, how do we, I don't know, how do we manage him up to this point in a sense of, to make sure he's not taking on assignments outside of his licensure?
So in the conversation that I had, and I don't know if he told Rob this, he had told me that he is not doing this work currently. He's hired somebody else with a higher credential level to do it at his office. So we don't have any evidence that he is currently appraising beyond the level of a licensed appraiser credential.
All these were prior.
They were.
Okay.
So,
Typically what we do when we see somebody that has done like similar behavior and it falls prior to the discipline being imposed, and the discipline that you impose is correcting that behavior, we will go ahead and close out the discipline. But I wanted to bring this to you just because of, I know that this case was a concern, this respondent was a concern the first time he saw them.
So he said that there's going to be a license or an application pending. Did he say, I mean, does that mean that he has completed all of the steps to upgrade his license, or did he say he had any steps outstanding besides the application?
So when he talked to me, he told me that he was gonna, have it submitted within like a week's time.
And when was that? Approximately.
March.
Yeah, March or April.
And I had a similar conversation when I sent out the first disciplinary action, and I have to go back and run that. I guess that would have been September.
So you have September, March, that's 2 times.
And I believe
Sorry.
the first complaint from 2025, he had also indicated that he was going to upgrade his licensure at that point as well.
so I have a question on the, so the timing is basically what we're saying is we've already meted out punishment for this issue. But is he not also arguing right now that about the deed restriction, and isn't a deed restriction a complex property in and of itself? Is he also, I'm looking at his response to the complaint and was talking about how hard it was to find an adjustment for the deed restriction. I think that's what he's trying to say. He shouldn't be appraising anything with a deed restriction if he's just a licensed appraiser. And he wrote this letter in April. So I wonder if he understands what he's not allowed to do.
Doesn't that go back to the first time he got in trouble, hasn't finished all that stuff, maybe he hasn't done anything since we imposed pretty hefty
That we know of.
penalties.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
so you have to assume that he's doing it and correcting it.
When is his previous disciplinary and all of that due? Do we need to have that done, or is there?
There's a question for Penny.
Yeah, and I may not be able to access that, but let me see if I can.
And then is there a way for us to table this complaint?
Yeah.
And so that we see if he fulfills what was prior, or
So-
is that,
Well, if he doesn't fulfill the terms of his,
it'll come,
back to you as a stipulation violation, which you can take action on.
but that would be separate then to this complaint, right?
Yeah.
So what would happen to this complaint?
So if you don't take action on this complaint, it
Goes
just
away.
we just
back
close it.
What are the due dates?
I don't know that it would make sense to take action on something that he's still trying to correct. When you can take action if he doesn't correct it.
Right.
Rob, did you visit with him?
I spoke with him on a couple of different occasions, yes.
Yeah.
It appears to me that he was kind of delaying the process and has actually didn't sign the stipulation until after he was notified of this second complaint. After it had already just spent, I think, considerable time talking with Penny, as well as receiving a letter from the assistant AG office as well.
Okay,
This was, I think
So-
this complaint was the motivation for him to sign the stipulation.
so barring a mortgage amount and there's no mortgage in the transaction, would it be fair to say that the transaction price is the appraised value? Wouldn't that be fair? I mean, if you
Yeah,
don't have a mortgage, what's the deal going to be? You're thinking of a deal between a buyer and a seller, what's the transaction amount?
According to the real estate manual, a transaction value, if there's no mortgage, is if the market value is above $1 million.
Does he understand that? That's his limitation?
Well, he was fairly argumentative about that in his interpretation. It's like, well, do we really know what a market value is if it hasn't been sold? Was kind of part of that once the particular aspect of definition of transaction value was pointed out to him. So
Yeah, I feel like that's concerning.
Mhm.
Because he's aware, he's had numerous conversations, he needs to up his licensure if he needs to, or his license to be able to play in that arena at that price. But I don't know, he feels like he's skirting around it, he's kind of loose with it.
He's only aware now, after he got in trouble, these were prior, right?
Well, after the last call, that's when he finally decided to sign the stipulation, but he'd still be doing it. So he's flying. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably, I hope he's not doing anything until he finishes what we've already levied towards him. But it feels like if he's not taking it serious through the conversation that he had with Rob, that it's potentially that he's still doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Which is appraise whatever he wants, anywhere from 1 million to 16 million, or whatever he had in that conversation with Rob, that he was very confident in saying, which is scary.
His conversation with Marcia said that he hired somebody to do.
Oh, that's right, he did, yes.
Finish.
True.
What he imposed and
Yeah,
then make the
yeah,
decision.
yeah.
Clint, on his website, he also has his resume, which he says from September 13th of 2002, he can appraise properties, including single family 2 to 4 condos, vacant land, lots, and townhomes. So he's got the whole gamut there that he's been saying that he's been able to do since 2002 to present. So I agree with you, Clint, when you're saying, does he know that, I don't think he's understanding what he can and can't do. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the question, in that we've already kind of given him his stipulation prior, but it
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that he's accepted it, but he hasn't accepted, it feels like he hasn't accepted the fact that he just can't do the higher value items or more complex items, and that understanding of what he can and cannot do is in question. Yeah,
I don't think we have anything that supports saying he doesn't understand it now.
Correct. Yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point.
Okay.
Maybe he's just choosing to do what he wants to do. And that's,
You force his hand with what we imposed the first
time.
the first time and, you know, let him tend to his business and then see.
and see where he's at.
I don't know that you can add to it. You can add the
Yeah.
same stuff that he's working on.
He's
now.
already working on it,
So a
right?
little information for you.
Oh, you got a little information, Penny?
So it looks like we have, so he signed the stipulation in February, he had 30 days to pay the fine has been paid. He had 3 months to complete the coursework, and the coursework has been completed. Then he was to do a work product review, and I can't get a hold of my tracker right now, but there's no evidence in the file that the work product review has been completed yet, or that somebody's been approved to do it. So he still has that element of his current stipulation.
Okay.
And what's the time frame on that? Is there a time frame?
Yeah, let's see what it says here. So we usually want to get that started after the coursework is completed. You asked for 4 appraisals. So there'll be 2 per month for a period of 2 months. So it's probably
Just finished
in
part
that,
one.
in April. So, we should have a little action there. I
Yeah.
haven't gotten a report from my tracker that he's non-compliant, so he must be working with her on that, but that is the one piece
Okay.
of the stipulation that has not been completed yet.
Fair enough. Okay.
So he complied with everything else so far.
Then
Okay.
this complaint would kind of fall under that umbrella of that.
I would think so since
Yeah.
it's prior.
Time.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
that helps. I think that helps a lot, actually.
So in this case then, is it a dismissal or is it?
So you can basically, if you want to make a motion to have it dismissed because it has been addressed with that prior discipline.
But he's still missing that one last piece.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
hasn't completed it
Right.
yet.
Yeah, the
And he's got
tracker.
the time
yeah,
to do it, so.
And it-
yeah.
Looking a little deeper, it does look like a work product, reviewer has been approved, so it is in progress. It's just
Oh,
not
okay,
completed
okay.
yet.
Within, okay. Okay, all right.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
So this is Rob Stylo. I make a motion, we dismiss this on the grounds that he's still fulfilling his previous stuff and this was prior.
This is, board member Martell, I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we can vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
And the motion passes.
So your last matter is complaint matter F. This is case number 2025-1696. The division received a complaint alleging that the respondent's appraisal of a property in Parachute, Colorado failed to comply with the generally accepted appraisal standards. A review of the report identified multiple material deficiencies, including failure to apply or support GLA adjustments despite market evidence, a final value conclusion that exceeds a nearly identical comparable without adequate explanation, and an unsupported site value significantly above market supported levels. The cost approach was incomplete and potentially misleading, lacking proper allocation of contributory components and relying on an unsupported cost rate. Additionally, the report failed to address material differences between a site-built comparable and a manufactured subject property. The appraisal also contains internal inconsistencies, including conflicting manufacture and construction dates, discrepancies in room count, and unsupported representation of high comparable sale prices that are not substantiated by market data. Oops, my mouse went the opposite direction. So collectively, these deficiencies raise significant concerns regarding the credibility, supportability, and compliance of the appraisal report with professional standards. The division investigated the conflicting statements regarding the appraisal of the property in Parachute and the use of the respondent's digital signature by a separate appraisal company. The respondent denied completing or reviewing the appraisal report and alleged that his signature was used without authorization. He acknowledged providing his digital signature as part of an independent contractor agreement and receiving payment for other appraisal assignments. The owner of the appraisal company has disputed those claims, stating that the respondent completed the appraisal work for the company, accepted assignments, and authorized use of his digital signature. Assignment records reflected activity attributed to the respondent related to the subject appraisal. The division attempted to determine who completed the appraisal work and whether the report was transmitted with the respondent's knowledge and approval. So the possible violation that we have here is 12-10-613-1G, which is violating NewsPath and the ethics rule. And we don't have a recommendation for you just due to the nature of this complaint. Scott Wentz is the investigator, and he is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Wentz?
Yes,
This
sir.
is Board Member Goff. I have a question. So, do we either have to discern that there was a forgery here of this license? Or was he not telling the truth about working on the appraisal?
So I had actually contacted the actual respondents in this case, and then the owner of the appraisal company. They had signed a contract, and the signature on the actual contract, as one of the exhibits was listed, is the exact same contract or the exact same signature that was listed on the actual appraisal report. When I contacted the respondent initially with the the actual complaint, he stated that he never even completed the actual appraisal report. He stated that he had supplied his digital signature to the gentleman's appraisal company, and he was under the impression that he was just going to do the reviews on the final end of the actual appraisal reports, and he stated that he would review them before the signature was actually affixed. It's my understanding, just from reviewing some of the documents and so forth, that it is the same signature that was affixed to the actual contract. I don't, it obviously the appraisal company has a copy of his signature, and he actually stated in the course of the interviews and so forth that he did supply his signature. So in all essence, they did have a copy of his signature. And excuse me, without mentioning names, the owner of the company stated that yes, that Mr. Baldwin had completed the actual appraisal report. So I'm getting two completely different stories out of the actual respondent and the actual appraisal company's owner. Some of the documentation that actually came across to me, the actual respondent was listed as the individual that was accepting the appraisal assignments through the actual portal. So all the communication that was back and forth from the actual lender and the actual appraiser listed the actual respondent on the actual communication log.
Okay, so to clarify, because you were using somebody's name and that is not the respondent. So it was the owner of the appraisal company that was accepting the assignments, not this respondent, correct? Just to clarify.
No. It is as far as the documentation that was supplied to me from the appraisal company, they were claiming that the actual respondent was the person that was accepting the actual appraisal assignments, and it clearly did indicate the actual respondent's name on the communication log, and the respondent is claiming that he had nothing to do with this actual report that was in question. If that clears up your question there, Marcia. Sorry about that for the confusion.
The last name that was mentioned was just not the respondent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could not the homeowner verify who actually showed up, did the site review, and measured the house?
So I did contact the actual homeowner, and she was under the impression that the actual respondent was the actual person that actually came out and did the actual site inspection. She said that she said that that's what the communication that she'd had with her actual mortgage company. I had contacted her, and I'd asked, could you describe exactly, what the appraiser actually looked like? Did the appraiser, because most appraisers, when they come out for the actual site visit, they actually give you a business card and so forth. And she was just kind of vague. She just said that she believed that it was the actual respondent that actually came out, and that's what she was told, that somebody from the appraisal company came out and did the site inspection, which I understand that, but they didn't tell her exactly who the actual and who did the actual site inspection. And I actually contacted the appraisal company owner and asked what type of significant assistance and so forth was actually utilized on this report. And he said that the whole report was actually and site inspection was actually from the actual respondent. Sorry about the confusion between the respondent and including the appraisal owner. Sorry about the confusion there. So if you have any if there's any other confusion and you need anything actually answered, I can most definitely address that.
So the appraiser that signed the report says he didn't complete the report.
That is correct.
The owner of the company said he did.
Correct. So we're getting two different stories. We're getting a story from the actual respondent in the actual case that's claiming he did not go out and actually appraise the property. And he said that he was in the process of establishing a working relationship with this actual appraisal company and had supplied his digital signature. But he was under the impression that he was going to review all of the assignments and it was going to be more of a review type status. But again, I went ahead and contacted the owner of the appraisal company that was in question, and the owner claimed that it was the actual respondent actually did complete the appraisal assignment. If that clarifies that, sorry about that.
Side of that, there was a lot of communication outside a portal on this one. Is that right? Through WhatsApp or something? Is this the right?
Yeah.
That is.
Was any of that gone through in terms of speaking to him, or?
It as far as that information was actually supplied to me at the prior to the contact with both individuals, and I asked them as far as the information, and I brought that information up to, or those texts that you're actually talking about. I brought that information up to the appraiser owner of the company, and he said that he didn't understand as far as what type of communication, who that was actually between. So he claimed that there was somebody in his office that actually, did some assistance as far as the invoicing out and the payment and so forth, as far as the actual appraisal report. And I did actually communicate with the actual respondent, and I wanted to know, because the owner of the appraisal company claimed that the respondent had received payment for the actual appraisal report. So then again, I went ahead and reached out to the respondent, and he said that he had completed about 10 appraisals over the course of their whole relationship, which I believe was looks like it was severed at the at the end of October 2025, and he said all the payments were through a electronic Zelle. So that's the only communication that he actually had, and he said that he didn't have any of the invoicing or any other documentation of payment. He said that he just had received it. He claimed that it was just one Zelle payment that was for he believes for 10 individual appraisal reports.
Scott, have you looked in the past to see if Steve, how, other than the 10 that he supposedly did for this company, how many he's done out in Parachute and kind of similar to this?
I went ahead and reached out to him. He claimed that he was in Colorado for a short period of time. He claimed that he has now relocated back to Illinois, and he does have an active license in Illinois and also in Wisconsin. He claimed that he just moved here and he tried to establish himself as a real estate appraiser here in the state of Colorado for a short period of time. And he said that he was approached by the owner of this company, without mentioning names of the actual appraisal company. And he said that they were trying to establish a working relationship, because he said that the appraisal company was out of New Jersey, and they were trying to get some business here in Colorado and start an appraisal business here in Colorado. So if that answers your question.
So one thing I'm not entirely clear on then is the 10 assignments include this one in Parachute, or they do not include this one, or we don't know?
I had asked him as far as the assignments that I had through the course of communication with the actual respondent. I'd had an interview, and then we'd had various emails back and forth and so forth. And I'd asked him which appraisal assignments. I'd asked him if he had been compensated for this assignment, and he said that he did not know if he'd been compensated, because he said that the way that he had been paid was through a Zelle, which is like an online type app where that you put in an actual dollar figure, similar to like a Venmo or something like that. Through
And
like
then Scott, does the owner of the appraiser company have any emails or any correspondence that he has with Stephen regarding just this address alone at all?
Names, please don't use names.
Sorry.
No, he did not. He did
Okay.
not. The only type of record of communication for any part of this appraisal assignment was one of the exhibits, and that was one of the actual portal where it actually stated that the respondent by name was listed as I believe he had asked for an extension for one of the deadlines or something like that. But yeah, the respondent was listed as the actual person in the communication portal for the actual assignment.
Do you believe that the appraiser that signed this completed the report, or are we just assuming? I mean, it's a pretty big deal if he's declining that he did it, I think.
Right.
I mean, it's on the wrong form. It's a manufactured home. The form itself states this form's not for a manufactured home, which is a totally different issue if he didn't complete it.
Right. Exactly.
Where did you kind of leave it in your opinion? Is it the appraiser that signed it did it?
Well, initially, when I'd sent out the communication to the actual respondent, the respondent notification letter, I'd gotten a response back for the actual case. So I was a little confused because I'd gotten a response back, and it was from the actual appraisal company. So apparently, when I'd sent out the respondent notification letter to the actual respondent, he obviously contacted the appraisal company because he'd gotten a complaint, which I understand that, but I had interviewed the actual respondent, and the respondent claimed that he'd never completed the actual appraisal report. And in the meantime, I got the response back for the actual complaint, and it was a response back from the actual appraisal company. And I'd asked, then there was some more communication between the respondent and I, as far as I mean, how did he said that he had contacted them because he'd gotten a complaint from us, the Division of Real Estate here in the state of Colorado, and he wanted to know exactly what was going on. And then on a separate occasion, I'd interviewed the owner of the appraisal company, and I'd asked him as far as I'd kind of played dumb as far as that I'd even contacted or had been in even contact with the actual respondent. So halfway through the actual interview with the actual owner of the appraisal company, I said, "So I'm curious to see who actually completed this appraisal report, because the respondent in this actual case is claiming that he had never completed this actual report." And the owner of the appraisal company stated that he was just absolutely dumbfounded. He said he said absolutely no. He was claiming that the actual respondent had completed the actual appraisal assignment.
Who provided you work file and stuff, the appraiser or the appraisal company?
The actual appraisal company supplied the actual initial response. That is correct. And then I got a response from the actual respondent that was claiming that he had never even completed the actual assignment. So I've got two different individuals that are telling me two different stories. I've got the respondent that's claiming that he never even completed the actual appraisal report, but he did supply his signature to this company. And then I've got the appraisal company that's stating that no, that the respondent actually completed the actual appraisal report. So we do have some conflicting information back and forth as far as who said what and who did what. The only actual exhibit that I had as far as the appraisal portal was listing the actual respondent as the individual that was doing the communication back and forth on the actual log listed. But again, the respondent was claiming I'd reached out to him and I'd asked him. I said, "Were you ever listed as the one of the agents as far as accepting some of these assignments for some of these AMCs?" And he stated that yes, he had been listed, but he said that he claimed that he had never seen this one come across. So we've
Well, are
got.
there any rules surrounding this security of your digital signature?
So it's within the ethics rule of use, Pat. So because of the finger pointing back and forth, and we don't really know who did this, that is the reason that we're citing the ethics rule as a potential violation, because he should have protected his signature.
And ultimately, that responsibility falls on him.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, today is February.
Sorry.
So
an appraisal company can't get in trouble because they didn't sign anything anyways, right? So you're just assuming the.
So we have also
Fault lies.
opened a complaint on the board's motion against the owner of the appraisal company. Because.
and I think that's valid. I've had my signature used before and not given permission, so that's good to know. But
And Scott can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding though was kind of the setup was that there's other people doing significant contributions to these appraisal reports. And then this particular respondent was supposed to be reviewing the work.
but then there weren't names listed in the report,
No.
right? As significant. So it's,
Yeah.
there's.
Right.
Who wrote this report?
Yeah.
It's concerning.
Yeah, and just like Marcia said, initially the respondent had an agreement with the appraisal company that he was just going to be doing reviews and signing his name, and then somebody else was going to be supplying the significant appraisal experience for the actual reports. And in this case, there's nobody else listed in the actual report. It's just the actual respondent that was listed.
So to confirm real quick, we have no idea who wrote the report. We have no idea who inspected the property, but we have a report with a digital signature that was not provided, but was provided, and a appraisal management company that is stating they have no idea what happened. I'm just.
There's a lot of communication
Yeah.
between them that I feel like the independence with the appraiser was mean, not really there. There were a lot of back and forth comments that were really concerning.
I mean, is this an appraisal management company or was?
Or it might be an appraisal firm, I'm
So
sorry.
I think it's a firm.
A firm,
Okay.
right, yeah, a shop of appraisers,
Okay.
sorry about that, I misspoke
Yes.
earlier.
So as a board, we can't comment on how bad the appraisal is, because we don't know who did it, but we can comment on,
Well, it's the fact that he didn't safeguard his signature and it's on this report.
Yeah,
so that's more the issue than
well, the report's not great either,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's some stuff there, but it's like, okay, so
We can't-
we look at the report, we say the adjustment, you know, we ridicule that, but then what do? We take and we place coursework towards a digital signature, you know what I mean? I'd say,
well, you
Yeah.
do a use back.
yeah, right, well, of course, yeah.
Well, also, this guy is back in Illinois now, so, I mean, education is probably not going to motivate him as much as.
And the owner of the company is based out of Connecticut.
Yeah,
But the board can't speak to him.
So he's
Right,
got,
anything.
so you still have some jurisdiction over him. He's got a credential, but it expired at the end of last year. So he's got a 2-year reinstatement window, which is why we opened the complaint as well, because it's 2 wrongs are not making a right here. But there's a lot of questions with this. You've got people from out of state, the appraisal was done here. Nobody is taking ownership of the appraisal. And it very likely could have been done with somebody who is actually a trainee.
I mean, it's possible to say it could have been done by somebody, yeah, that is a trainee, and then whoever wrote the report, it could be an offshore situation. You know, it could be all sorts of different things.
Scott, can I ask you a question? Did you ask for any of the respondents' past Colorado appraisals to see if they kind of matched up? Because this, I mean, I even looked at this appraisal and it was pretty bad. That we can look at any of his past Colorado, at least 5 to 10 of them, to see if they kind of correspond to what that appraisal looks like, to see the work.
I
Kind of, you know, you can kind of, sometimes, you know, I mean, everyone's kind of got their signature thing that they kind of use and stuff. And to see over so many, how many, maybe 5 of the state of Colorado's appraisals, to see if they kind of matched up. I mean, if they're completely off, then you can kind of tell that it's not, that it wasn't him that did it, and the appraisal company used his signature.
I did not obtain the other copies of the actual appraisal reports. That's something that I actually could actually ask the respondent for. I could see if I could dig deeper into
I
that.
think that may be something, because, I mean, everyone's got like their scope of work that they always kind of, I mean, as an agent or a loan officer or an appraiser, everyone kind of has their go-to that they always, you can see across the board. And if it doesn't match up with this appraisal, you can obviously see that he did not do it. And I think that's one of the only ways that you can find out if this was kind of like his signature way of doing things or not.
I don't know
Sure.
if that's gonna be the case, since he was hired to review other people's work and affix his signature on those reports.
So it'll be their style.
It'll be their style.
True, it'll be there. And is he considered the supervisor appraiser on that, basically signing off? And they're the trainees?
But this particular report, was he signed as a supervisor or was that even?
One in trainings can't sign in Colorado,
That is correct.
so you'd have to sign and just note this level of assistance.
Is there a way to notify the other states that this is
But you don't know if it
been
did
brought?
anything wrong.
I know,
It's under Baldwin appraisal.
but we've got the license of the
So-
appraisal firm and then him, and they're operating outside of Colorado. But we have this report.
He's a surgeon too.
So we've seen forgeries before. I have friends in the appraisal business that have had their
Definitely.
signature clearly jacked. And I think that this is a case where it's unclear. No, I'm sorry, let me restate that. It's clear to me that this guy knew that the management company had his signature. It got out of control. He didn't retain proper custody of his signature, so I'd recommend a $500 fine as punishment on this one. I'd like to make a motion that we impose a $500 fine.
And that's it?
Yeah,
No ethics class or use PEP, or you just,
you want to add that?
I hear the current license, right?
that's the only issue,
It's all
I think,
good.
is.
He does have a current license.
Yeah, let's
Mr.
add a
Pep.
15-hour use PAP to that.
Scott, is there any other investigation we can do to figure it out, or we're just against the wall here?
I believe as far as this case, I believe we're kind of against the wall. As far as, Marcia did, state that we have opened up, the division has opened up a case against the appraisal, company that he was paired up with on this case.
So we just figure this one out like it is and then go, if that comes across.
So I'm sorry, Brent, can you
Yeah, so
restate your
I'd
motion?
like to restate the motion, imposing a $500 fine and a mandatory 15-hour use PAP course.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This Rob Stylewise second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Can I ask for clarity on, is this through a stipulation for diversion?
That would be fine, through a stipulation for diversion.
Anyone else? Maybe we can go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. The motion passes. And we will, doesn't look like there's any licensing matters, ESP or AG matters. Okay, we all done then? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How would the folks in the audience get continuing education credit for this?
So,
I'm happy to answer that, board member. Anyone that is here, in person, there is a sign-up sheet that, if you can just please make sure that you sign that up. We will deliver a certificate to the email address that you provide us. And the same is very true for any attendees that are online. Anyone that, has attended the meeting, we can check, cross-reference your attendance records. We have your attendance because you're here. I can see you. So we will provide that continuing education credit certificate in just a few days.
Thank you.
Dan,
Thank you. Thanks.
can I ask another question? Is it possible for the people at home to see how many participants are attending the Zoom meeting?
We don't generally share that information, although that it's interesting because you've raised a question that another individual asked just recently as well.
Oh, okay.
About that, so.
I think, yeah, just so maybe people, if they wanna, speak up or if they wanna know, like, how much interest is generally in the meeting, it might be kind of nice.
Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is board member Bartel. I will make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
It's Taylor, I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.